Nothing beats a Jet2 holiday. And right now, you can save £50 per person. That's £200 off for a family of 4. We've got millions of free
A woman was shot and killed just minutes after posting about the domestic violence she was facing. Family members say 34-year-old Mariah Samuels lost her life this weekend to that violence. John Lauritsen spoke with Samuels' loved ones.
She loves animals. She loved her son. She was sweet. She was outgoing. She was free-spirited. We loved each other. She's my everything.
Just before 8 o'clock Sunday morning, Minneapolis police found her shot here in North Minneapolis, just feet from her own front.
10 shots. Not 5, 10. Each one deliberate. Each one echoing down a quiet street. Neighbors rushed out in their pajamas. Some thought it was fireworks. Others knew it was something worse. It's September 15th, 2025, in North Minneapolis. The morning begins like any other. Quiet streets, kids walking to school, coffee brewing in kitchens. But by 7:50 a.m., the neighborhood wakes to something else entirely. 15 shell casings glittering in the sunlight. A car door hanging open. Inside that vehicle, 34-year-old Mariah Samuels takes her last breath, her body slumped behind the wheel of her car. A woman who spent months trying to save her own life. Just hours before she died, Mariah posted her final words online. 9 haunting words that now echo through every conversation about her death. I was trying to stay silent, but stalking me at 4 in the fucking morning, and the police ain't doing shit or did him a fucking thing besides serve him a protective order. And clearly it's not doing shit, G. Fuck this. Inside her house sat that very document, signed, sealed, and completely useless against the man who wanted her dead. His name was David Eugene Wright, a 50-year-old ex-con who had spent 15 years in prison. He knew exactly how the system worked and how to break it. When police caught him hours later, Wright didn't run. He didn't fight. He looked detectives in the eye and said, "Just read our text messages. Then you'll understand why I did it." But we don't need his messages to understand what happened, because Mariah had already told the world everything. Weeks before her death, she uploaded security footage, video proof of Wright attacking her outside her home. She'd called the police, filed reports. She'd done everything victims are told to do. But here's the part that will break you. Mariah wasn't her first victim. 2 other women had filed protection orders before her. 2 other women had barely escaped. They survived. Mariah didn't. So, what happens when the system knows a man is dangerous? When there are warnings, videos, restraining orders, and it still takes a murder to make anyone listen? This is not just another crime story. This is a story about love, control, and neglect by the justice system. It's about a woman who can do everything right and still be failed by the very system meant to protect her. This is the story of Mariah Samuels, a story about love, obsession, and a system that failed her even after she did everything right. Stay with us as we uncover how love, control, and neglect by the justice system led to a woman's death. Welcome to the Inside the Crime Mind. To our loyal subscribers, thank you for standing with us through every heartbreaking case. May your families stay safe wherever they are. And if you're joining us for the first time, and you believe stories like these should never stay hidden, subscribe now. Because when they silence one voice, they silence the many that could follow. And every click, every share, keeps Mariah's voice and the truth from fading away again. What makes a tragedy unbearable isn't just the crime. It's who the world lost. Mariah Samuels wasn't famous. She didn't chase headlines. She just wanted peace. the kind that comes after years of chaos. She worked hard, groomed dogs for a living, made people smile when they picked up their pets, clean, happy, wagging their tails. Her friends said she had a gift with animals, that she could calm the nervous ones, the ones others turned away. Maybe that's who she was, someone who believed broken things could still heal. She was 34, a single mother, 2 boys who adored her. She talked about traveling with them, maybe Florida, maybe just a weekend road trip. All she wanted was a little normal. But in the quiet corners of her life, there was fear. A fear with a name: David Wright. He was older, 50 years old, with the kind of charm that sounds practiced. He'd spent time in prison, 15 years. He said he'd changed. He said he wanted a second chance. Mariah believed him. She believed people could be better if they wanted to be. But what she didn't know was that David's demons weren't behind him. They were waiting. He had a criminal record stretching back decades: drug charges, violence, probation. And beneath the surface, the same pattern that so many abusers follow: control, jealousy, and power. Every love story has turning points. Moments when something changes, small at first, almost invisible, until suddenly it's too late to turn back. For Mariah Samuels, that shift began months before her death. At first, he was protective, sweet even, checking if she got home safe, texting "Good morning, beautiful." At first, the argument seemed normal. Every couple fights, right? But soon the tone changed. Sharper, meaner. The messages weren't sweet anymore. They were surveillance. David's words became weapons. Friends would later say he didn't like when she went out without him. He checked her phone, watched who she followed. Control became his love language. The line between love and control blurred until it disappeared. Mariah started noticing the patterns, the unannounced visits, the arguments for nothing, the possessiveness, the bruises she'd explain away. By late summer 2025, she'd had enough. She ended things. But David didn't take no for an answer. He stalked her. He threatened her. He hurt her. And just weeks before her death, he pistol-whipped her, hit her so hard she bled, then choked her until she couldn't breathe. He even held a gun to her head. And then he told her no one would believe her. But she didn't stay silent. She filed a police report. She got a restraining order, officially granted on August 25, 2025. She was doing everything right. Still, she told friends she didn't feel safe because Wright kept showing up, watching, calling, even as the order told him not to. By August 2025, Mariah was turning 34. Her friends said she wanted peace, a clean break, a new start. But David Wright had other plans. He told everyone he was going to make it up to her, that he was planning a birthday surprise.
He bought gifts: perfume, clothes, jewelry, each one wrapped with care. On the day of her birthday, he showed up at her house uninvited, gifts in hand. Mariah wouldn't open the door. Through the glass, she told him to leave. He refused. For 3 hours, he sat on her front steps, alternating between love confessions and quiet threats disguised as apologies. Neighbors watched from their windows. One described it later as a man rehearsing his heartbreak until it turned into rage. 2 weeks later, the messages started again. On September 12, 2025, Mariah's phone lit up with a text from a number she didn't recognize. "I still have things that I bought for your BD. I hate that you won't accept them, but anyways, I'll chill. One last question. Why haven't you blocked me on here? I'll never be able to do it. I love you, Mariah, and I am truly sorry for the hurt I caused you. I will regret that night the rest of my life. I am sorry for this, but I miss you, Mariah. Nah, I just miss you. It was Wright, violating the protective order through a burner phone. Mariah didn't respond. She simply took a screenshot, saved it, and planned to show police. That same night, unable to sleep, she opened Facebook and let the truth pour out. I can't stand a human being who can't take accountability for their fucked up actions. Hit, punch, slap, push, shove, whatever TF you want to call it. No man can call themselves a man after putting their hands on a woman physically in any shape or form. Replace the word man with coward. Then, 90 minutes later, she posted again, this time attaching video evidence. Surveillance footage from her home camera showing David Wright attacking her outside her house. The blows, the shouting, the fear. Mariah wanted the world to see exactly who he was. It was both a cry for help and a message of defiance. September 14th, 2025. The final night. At 4 a.m., Wright appeared once again on Mariah's security cameras. He prowled around her home, checked her car, even peered through her windows. Mariah called police, terrified. Officers responded, but by the time they arrived, he was gone. Frustrated, she opened Facebook one last time. I was trying to stay silent, but stalking me at 4 in the morning and the police ain't doing S besides serve him a protective order, and clearly it's not doing shit. Those were her last words. 4 hours later, that same protective order would still be in effect, but Mariah Samuels would no longer be alive to use it. The morning of September 15th, 2025, North Minneapolis. At 7:50 a.m., the neighborhood was quiet. The air is still, the kind of quiet before a normal day begins. Mariah sits in her car outside her home on Russell Avenue North. Coffee beside her, keys in hand. She doesn't see him coming. David Wright is approaching, not in a car, not on foot. He's on a stolen bicycle. He rides through the alley, quiet, deliberate, like someone who's done this before. He hides behind a garage, waits. Neighbors recall the still morning, nothing unusual. Then, gunfire. The shooting. Witnesses hear a woman scream. Then, 5 rapid shots. A pause. Then, more. 15 shell casings are later recovered from the scene. Police say Wright fired through the driver's window multiple times as Mariah sat in her car. The bullets ripped through the glass, the door, her chest. When neighbors ran outside, she was slumped halfway out of the vehicle. Her phone in her lap. Her coffee spilled across the console. A neighbor called 911. Paramedics arrived within minutes. They tried to save her, but Mariah was pronounced dead at the scene. By the time police tape went up, the neighborhood was flooded with disbelief. A quiet North Minneapolis street had turned into a crime scene. Her sons weren't home that morning, but they would come to learn later that day that their mother was gone, killed by the man who once said he loved her. Neighbors wept openly. Some said they had seen her walking her dog the day before, smiling, calm, as if trying to rebuild a normal life. None of them could have guessed that less than 24 hours later, her name would become a headline. It's almost unbearable to think about. She did everything right, filed reports, sought protection, warned everyone, and still it wasn't enough. So, what went wrong? Was it neglect? Or a system that only reacts after tragedy strikes? Because while police were still marking shell casings on the pavement, David Wright was already on the move. The street on Russell Avenue North was silent again. The chaos had faded, but what remained was worse. Police officers combed the scene, marking bullet casings, 15 of them, scattered across the concrete like confessions. Neighbors watched from their windows, whispering her name, Mariah. She wasn't supposed to die like this. Inside her car, shattered glass glistened under the morning sun. A phone lay nearby, still recording. It had captured fragments of her last moments. Muffled shouts, the sound of her door opening, then gunfire. The investigators moved fast. They pulled surveillance footage from nearby homes, businesses, and street cameras. Each clip showed the same thing: a man riding a bike through the alley at dawn. A man matching the description of someone they knew all too well. David Eugene Wright. Wright, the ex-boyfriend under a restraining order. The same man Mariah had begged police to take seriously. But the system lagged. Calls were documented, follow-ups delayed, and by the time the paperwork caught up, she was gone. Detectives traced Wright's phone. He hadn't even tried to hide. Messages on his device told a story darker than anyone expected. Jealousy, anger, and a twisted sense of ownership. One text read, "You think a piece of paper can stop me?" That message, time-stamped just hours before the shooting, would later become a haunting reminder of how predictable and preventable this tragedy was. Later that night, police found Wright hiding in a friend's basement. The bike leaned against the wall. A gun was tucked inside a backpack. When they brought him in, he didn't resist. He didn't even ask why. He just whispered one line: "I told her not to embarrass me." But what did he mean by that? What kind of man turns humiliation into murder? When detectives sat him down, David Wright didn't deny anything. He spoke calmly, almost relieved. "I did it. She pushed me too far."
He claimed Mariah provoked him, that her social media posts were disrespectful. In his words, she was trying to ruin his name. But investigators knew what this really was: a man losing control. Psychologists call it coercive control. When an abuser feels their dominance slipping, they lash out to reclaim it. According to domestic violence research from the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence, this phase, when the victim sets boundaries, is the most dangerous time. Mariah had finally said no. She had filed the restraining order. She had posted her truth online, hoping someone would listen. And to Wright, that was betrayal. He told detectives, "If I can't have her, nobody will." Those were his final words before signing the confession. In his mind, it wasn't murder, it was justice. He couldn't accept that she had moved on, that she was choosing peace over him. His ego couldn't survive her independence. She tried to save herself, and that's what made him kill her. The courtroom would later hear every detail, every message, every threat she documented. The courtroom in Hennepin County was silent that morning. Every seat was filled. Family, friends, reporters, and in the front row sat a mother, clutching a photo of her daughter, Mariah. She had come not just for justice, but for answers. Answers to a question that haunted her family for weeks. How did the system watch this unfold and still let it happen? The charges came quickly. David Eugene Wright was formally accused of second-degree intentional murder and illegal possession of a firearm, crimes that could lock him away for life. He barely looked up when the charges were read. No emotion, no tears, just a man who once claimed he loved her, now facing the consequence of that twisted version of love. Prosecutors painted a devastating picture, a pattern of control, violence, and warnings ignored. They presented the ballistics reports, 15 shots fired, 1 weapon used. They showed the surveillance footage, right on that bicycle, moments before the attack. And they played the voicemail Mariah left days earlier, begging for police intervention. Each piece of evidence formed a chain, one the prosecution said was unbreakable. Witnesses testified. Neighbors described hearing her scream. And then came the most chilling detail. Wright's own confession. As of now, the case remains ongoing. The court awaits final sentencing. But for Mariah's loved ones, no sentence will undo what's been done. They lost a daughter, a sister, a mother. And the city lost another woman who tried to live past the violence that followed her. And so the moral question lingers. When a system knows the danger, when it's warned again and again, when it holds every piece of the puzzle but never puts it together. In the United States, more than half of domestic violence homicides involve a restraining order violation. That's according to the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence. Half, which means thousands of people like Mariah had already raised their hands and said, "I'm in danger." And still, no one came soon enough. Advocates say protection orders are often nothing more than paper promises. They give victims hope, but no shield. Enforcement depends on local police, often overwhelmed or undertrained in domestic threat response. Some departments treat restraining orders as civil matters. By the time the danger becomes criminal, it's already too late. And it's not just one city. From Minneapolis to Houston, from Atlanta to Los Angeles, records show the same pattern. Women file reports, warnings are logged, threats escalate, and then tragedy. The cycle feels endless, but it doesn't have to be. This story isn't just about Mariah and David Wright. It's about every woman who's told, just get a restraining order, and every man who uses that moment of separation as his final act of control. Could this have been prevented? How many others are still trapped like Mariah, doing everything right, yet living on borrowed time? And what does it say about a system that waits until blood is spilled to start listening? Her story didn't end here. Her name would echo through candlelight vigils, through courtrooms, through city council meetings. Because her death, like too many others, became a call that could no longer be ignored. In the weeks that followed, the streets of North Minneapolis glowed with candlelight. Dozens gathered, holding signs, photos, prayers. A single phrase written on every poster: justice for Mariah. One of her relatives spoke softly at the vigil. Mariah was the 4th woman in our family killed by someone who said they loved her. It's a sentence that breaks you, because it's not just one tragedy. It's a generational wound, one that keeps reopening every time the system promises protection and delivers paperwork instead. But even in their grief, Mariah's family turned their pain into purpose. They began pushing for stronger enforcement of protection orders. Advocates called for specialized domestic violence units in local precincts, officers trained to recognize patterns before they turn deadly. And maybe, just maybe, that's how we honor her, by refusing to let her story fade into statistics, by speaking her name every time the system fails another woman who tried to survive. If you believe the justice system must change, if you believe Mariah deserved better, comment "Justice for Mariah" below and share her story, because silence is how this keeps happening. For Mariah Samuels and every woman who did everything right, this story must be told.